The answer is take the win and run.
I get hung up on certain things.
I have OCD, Jake.
I mean, hi guys, my name's Jeff. I'm an equal opportunity lover. You guys know that.
But wouldn't the dog want to stay on the meat wagon?
We say you can convince the dog to hop off.
That's insane.
Yeah, I'm intelligent.
That's such a Jeff answer right there.
He's handsome, curly-haired, and Jewish, sitting right here.
Jeff, you are a golden retriever.
Hey, Jake, that's what you kids call that drip, right?
It was good despite the gastric consequences, but call me the crystal ball here, man. I'm getting everything right except my own picks. That's really, to me, a battle of two of the coaches with the best hair.
Welcome to the E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Founded in 2013, the EHL is your next step on the path to college. Over the past decade, the EHL has established itself as the college placement leader on the East Coast. And now, here's your host, the commissioner of the Eastern Hockey League, Neil Ravin.
Thanks, Jim. With that, let's bring back the entire E crew. Welcome back from your cruise, Jeff. How'd it go?
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Me and the wife went to the Eastern Caribbean, and it was a great time. We are very rested and relaxed and ready to get back to work. Let's do this thing, E-Show. Miss you.
And snow tomorrow, correct?
It's snow tomorrow.
We're getting snow tomorrow.
Yeah, the Southwest Airlines guy was great. Right as we got off the plane, there was a temperature. He was holding the temperature thing and said, "Welcome back," and it just said like 35 degrees. It was like, "Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate you so much."
Well, when I got back to my house we went to Maine for 3 nights for Thanksgiving. As everyone knows, I'm from Maine. I haven't said that much this season on the podcast, though.
You haven't, and I can't wait till we talk about the players of the month, because there's somebody from a certain state.
Oh, we'll get to that for sure.
Yeah, we will. We will. Yep.
But I had a package waiting for me in the driveway from the Connecticut Nor'eastern. I'm like, I already got a jersey. Like, we can't give me a second jersey, but I got a game puck. Right.
Ooh.
So I was laughing because I put it on my desk, and then I realized I have 11 pucks on my desk, guys. 11.
How many are EHL hockey?
No, it's just like, why do I have 11 pucks here? Do you want to go like rip a warm up real fast? Like, I have 11 pucks on my desk.
No, I have a ton of pucks too. I actually have some in boxes that I still haven't unpacked, as the office is still.
Oh, this is the one you gave me, Jeff, at a Northeastern game last year.
Yep.
So I got this was the Mid-Atlantic team versus Post this year.
Okay.
Jake, I know you got the game puck versus Keene. I got like the game puck 2 versus Keene. This is the one game against Nazareth a couple of years ago. So I got a good collection.
Memories, Neil? They're called memories.
Yes, they're called memories.
We're hockey puck heads, and pucks are cool. I love them.
I just at one point I was like, "There's a lot of pucks on my desk," and Jeff, your door just randomly opened behind you.
No, that would be
so creepy.
I think my wife wants to come in the room.
The door opened and there was like nothing there. I was like, oh boy.
When you accept the podcast, you're just not in your chair. It's impossible.
Well, sometimes I just click the button. I got to go do one more thing before I get on. So
is the one more thing P?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And on that note, Jake, we'll start breaking down around the East Show.
Let's take a look at what's going on around the E Show.
As we do, each December, it feels like we return from Thanksgiving, and we obviously don't go deep into the month of December because of the holiday season, but from now until the 19th, guys, this is a dead sprint. It's like everyone knows that we have a showcase at this time, of course, too, but there's this, I don't want to say need, but like this feeling that you have to get 3 or 4 other games in as well. I was talking with Coach Sorrell from the Avalanche about this, and it's like, all right, you're basically going to get 6 or 7 games in a 2.5 week stretch for a lot of these teams, right? So I figure what we should do on this episode, because there's no real games to recap, is kind of go quickly rapid fire, team by team, go over their schedule of what they have in December, and just rapid fire what they hope to get out of it the most. Let's start with those Avalanche, right? Who are in first place, record of 15-2-2, entering the month. Crazy. Half those losses are against the Wolves. They have 4 losses, and half of them are against the Wolves. And then speaking of sprints, they have 7 games starting tomorrow, the 5th. We're recording this on the 4th, right through the 19th. Is the simple goal just to hit the new year still in first place?
Yeah, I'd say so. And they don't have any games versus the Wolves. It's going to be a bunch of unfamiliar opponents, right? Because you got the showcase, you're going to play 87s, Huntsman, and Nor'easter teams all out of your division, but you got a
Yeah.
really good Wizards team that you're going to have to play. You got the Dukes twice, so maybe that's a juicy matchup for the Avs. You look at that and say, hey, we got to sweep the Dukes. We're much better than this team. And then you got the Valley Junior Warriors. So, yeah, so it's kind of a mixed schedule there for the Avalanche. But yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to go in and break it down that way, Neil and Jake, as far as teams that you should beat and then teams that you're like, okay, showcase. Do we try to get a split? Maybe go like a 1-1-1 type thing. But I mean, you're in a good position being at 15-2 in first, but the Wolves are coming. They're knocking on the door, Chris. As much as
And
you not.
let's ask this question. The last time the Avalanche faced the 87s in a showcase game, who scored the game-winning goal?
Alexander Legkov.
Boom. Jake knows puck.
Jake knows puck.
Take those bucks.
Jake knows puck. That was in Exeter.
Yeah.
January showcase 2 years ago.
It was a sick game.
It
I
was
was
a
gonna say
sick
that's
game.
not that's not the Avs 87s game. I remember calling at Newington Arena. Do you guys remember that one?
That was
Yes.
that was a wild one.
Oh, sorry. So there
We'll
was
call
one
Greasy.
game. Sorry, Jeff. There was one game in between, right? So the last
Yeah,
time the
yeah.
87s beat the Avalanche in a showcase game,
Yeah.
that was the 2 matchups ago. Lakoff game winner. Lakoff wasn't on the team last year though. So
Gamzatov, interview translator, too.
yes, I do remember that. That was fantastic.
My game was fun though. Adam Hooley, that was some fire that he was spewing off the bench that day. Remember that, Wolves? That was good.
Do you
He gave
have
me
that
chills
game?
that day.
Do you have that game at the showcase? Do you know?
That is a great question, Neil.
Because I know it's like, I think that's an even 50-50 split. You and Connor Manning. That
yeah,
showcase.
me and Connor Manning are your voices, whether you like it or not. It's me or Connor. It's like you've been here for like 4 days, but I'm really excited to dig it. I always love the December showcase. Really is one of the best. R.I.P. Newington Arena. We'll miss you, baby. But back to Paul T. Gilmartin Arena, where we haven't been in a while, so that should be fun.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, to the Wolves we go. Second place, 15-6. Obviously, they got a couple of wins in Laconia recently against the Avalanche, but then not as busy of a month of December, right? They got the one game next Wednesday against the Dukes, then their 3 showcase games. Does the smaller game count change the mentality of at all for the Wolves?
Oh, Jake, you're the resident Wolves expert. Maybe we'll let you take this one.
No, I would say no. I think if anything, they have a couple more games played than the Avalanche. When this month is all said and done, it'll actually be the Avalanche who are ahead. So I think it'll probably give them a little bit of confidence in the fact that maybe they are in a better position to catch up, with having the games in hand at that point. But they got to win the games that they're playing, and they're playing a team that beat them earlier in the season in Bridgewater, and the Wizards, we know what they can do offensively, especially. So I mean, they have a tough task cut out for them, but see what the Wolves can do.
And then I want to go quickly then to another team that has 4 games only this month. That's the Valley Junior Warriors, the host of that December showcase, and the team that Jake said it's the biggest sleeper in this division.
Ooh.
Yeah. Hundo P. I'm excited
Hundo
for
P.
that. For that Avs
100% for you that don't understand what Hundo is.
for that Avs Warriors game. You remember earlier in the season, man, the Warriors handed the Avs a loss. So
Yep,
I'm always
I remember
excited
that.
to watch the Warriors. They have
They
a
always
pretty
feel tough.
heavy showcase schedule. They're playing 3 teams that play pretty heavy games and hit everything that moves. So we'll see how they can handle that. But it's a quiet December, and we'll see what they can do and if they'll come out in the new year, especially swinging like I'm predicting right now.
Yep.
Although Wake Purdy, what the heck? 8 points, buddy. That's it. That's all we got.
Whoa.
Then
I
you
don't know.
jump.
I like you, Wake Purdy. I do, but I'm sad. I'm sad, bud. Very
Jump
sad.
to Vermont, and I bring up Vermont next because they both have 20 games played. Them and Valley, they both have 7 wins. Valley separated by 1 point. You remember last year, guys, it came down to 1 point between these 2 teams last year.
Yep.
You look at Vermont's schedule. Obviously, the showcase is on the road for them, but so is everything else
Yeah,
in the month of December, right? So they have a 3-3 coming up starting tomorrow, where they face the Nor'easter, then Capitals. then come back down for a quick day next Friday against the Eagles, and then have the showcase. Obviously, just as many games as the Avalanche, not as many as Valley, but I guess to get back to that game count, Jake, when the month ends, there'll be 3 games ahead of Valley. So is there like this almost anxiousness that they should make sure that they're at least 4 points ahead also?
Oh, I gotta think that they're feeling it right now, and I hate to say that, but I mean, I think they should be feeling it. I mean, they're gonna have more games played. I mean, the Dukes are not necessarily at their heels, but anything can happen in a month, and either Vermont needs to start stringing together some wins. I mean, they've dropped their last 8. That's a tough position to be in, and this is the time of year where everything starts to fly by, and it feels like the games just kind of get behind you. Like suddenly you're in January and, could be on the outside looking in. So you don't want to be in that position. So this is a month filled with must wins for that team. They need a split in Connecticut, and they need to beat the Eagles, who beat them twice in their own barn.
But I think the Lumberjacks do have something good on their side, though. They got a lot of veterans, right? A lot of veterans in the EHL, a lot of veterans in junior hockey, a lot of 04s, Brayson Bennett, Jackson Duquette, names you know quite well, Jake, that we all know. Perry Colados, Cammy Wickens, who we all love. So, I mean, I think that's clutch, too, when you have a packed schedule like that, is if you have some older guys that, are ready to take the next step to college hockey, they can come in and say, hey, all right, let's play 7 games. Let's go on a rip. Let's go into holiday break on the right side of things. So I think with the veteran roster, that's a good thing for them. It's a silver lining.
And speaking of players that, have showed that they may be ready for college hockey, let's touch on a kid that played in the college series that's been playing great of late for the team that's in last place in this division. How good has Brendan Nee been lately, guys? I know they haven't won every game, but man, he's given them a chance every single night he's played.
Yeah, I mean, they've lost their fair share of games, unfortunately, for them this season. But when you're losing by a single goal to the Avalanche and your goalie's putting up 50 some odd saves, you're obviously going to be in a position to win every game. And that's all you can ask for from your goaltender at the end of the day, right? Like, they're not going to lug you to 2 points every single day, but they're going to put you in a position to get it. And I think Brendan Nee is one of the best examples of that in the league.
Yeah, 920 save percentage.
Yeah, in 5 straight games, Jeff, with over 40 saves.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I thought about that for fantasy for a second, just because that's a lot of saves.
I was gonna say
point two.
Too bad our fantasy picks are locked in. But we're keeping an eye on you, Brendan Nee, and
yes.
Maybe the episode needs to be named Pucks, because we're just talking a lot about pucks. That's a lot of pucks. When we're seeing 40 a game, that's a lot, dude.
Yep. And obviously they have 7 games themselves coming up here in the month of December. So a big month for them as they're trying to chase down either Valley or Vermont or both, right?
And they're not that far out of it, right? I mean, you string together a few wins and some of those teams lose, you can get out of that 5th spot relatively easily. You're only 6 points behind Vermont and 7 behind Valley. So it can be done.
Next, we go to the Wizards, who are in first place in their division with a 3-point lead. Obviously, they still have the 3 games in hand over the Express, who they face twice this month.
Ooh.
And they have a matchup with the Avalanche, and they have a matchup with the Bears. This may be the toughest December schedule of anybody, but for the Wizards, is it a great chance to show this is how good we really are?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing they need to do is get over the hump that is Nick Hoda and the Express. We've talked about it. All jokes aside, I mean that the Express have dominated that matchup. Thanks to Jake for giving us all those numbers, and that's daunting. And that creeps in their heads, whether Corey and Joe say it does or not. I'm sure that if I asked them in person, they'd be like, they would just kind of shake it off a little bit, but it's definitely in your heads. And there's a lot of guys, returners on that team too, that have been there for a lot of those losses. So, hey, Daxton St. Hilaire, we need another 13 goals from you, buddy. Can you do it?
As we will get to fantasy, but what a month for the forward of the
seriously.
month.
Unbelievable.
Pretty special. So, but then to get to the Express, who I feel like, am I having deja vu, guys? Were they behind in game count last year too? I shouldn't say behind. I think it's just the way that they schedule, right?
Yeah.
Is that a strategy?
It has to be. Do we ask Todd? I can ask Todd that.
Well, I think it's Nick.
Is it Nick? I was just saying maybe a combo. They both sit down and look at it, but
I mean, they have 7 games this month, but that will put them at 23, so kind of more towards the average. But they're only at 16 games played right now.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I think like having 23 in the second half of this, or 25 now in the second half of the season, like that's pretty hefty. Like most
Yeah.
teams are over the halfway mark by the
Yep.
new year. So they
Right.
definitely are going to have a busier new year. And I don't know if that, maybe that's just the way they like it. I mean, they're playing so well right now. I'd want to keep playing if I were them. But, I know they've done some things in the last like handful of games, Bridgewater and Seahawks that they haven't loved. So they felt that the break came at the right time for them. But, we'll see if they can get that win streak into double digits.
Yeah, haven't loved 8 straight wins. Yeah.
I know we're getting a fantasy later, but choo choo December, let's go. All
Yeah.
right. So preview.
Still one regulation loss for the Express. That's it.
Wow.
But speaking of winning streaks, 4 straight for the Boston Junior Eagles, who are now up into third place. For their December schedule, they already played a game yesterday. That was a come from behind 5-4 victory for them over the Bandits. And then they have 6 more games coming up. Is there a matchup for the Eagles that jumps out at you guys in this remaining December schedule?
I mean, could you beat one of the hottest teams in the league in the 87s? That's your last game in the showcase, and that's going to be tough, right? Because that's the very last game of your month before you go on the holiday break. Well, 11-10 matchup on Thursday. Not sure if I'm calling that one or not. Haven't done the prep just yet, but everything's in the Google Calendar. But I think that would be a huge test, right, Neil Jake, to try and knock them off. They've won 10 of 11 games.
Yep,
And who knows how they could be even on a better streak by the time we get to the end of that showcase.
for sure.
I think it's got to be this Sunday's game, and not just because there's a cutie patootie on the call, but because they need to beat one of the top teams in their division. I mean, they've said it to me. They're winning a lot of games outside their division. I mean, they obviously swept Vermont in Vermont. They've beaten Nor'easter, I think, 3 times now. So they need a win against the Wizards or the Express, and they haven't got it yet. So I mean, I think if I'm the Eagles, like I'm putting a lot of chips into this game on Sunday.
So is the cutie patootie you or Connor Manning?
No, it's him.
Oh,
It's
come
you,
on,
'cause
man.
it's a CIA game.
Who's
I just wanted to
cuter?
ask.
You tell me who's cuter. You tell me who's cuter right now.
You're both cute. You're both cute. I know you a lot better, so I'm gonna go you, Jakey.
Oh my
Correct.
God. I can't handle this.
Correct.
We go to the Bandits next and the Seahawks, tie them together here because there is a huge Bandits versus Seahawks matchup coming up 1 week from today when we're recording this podcast on the 11th. That's at Tony Kent down on the Cape. And right now it's a 2-point lead for the Bandits, and they have the game in hand, right? So that's
Mm.
it feels like it may come down to those two teams for the last spot. I think I know there's a lot that can play out, but it feels like it's going to come down to those two teams.
It does. And the only time they've played, the Seahawks thumped them pretty good, 6-2. And so I'm sure Coach Dravich and JJ Dean and the rest of the boys of Bridgewater remember that, and they're going to want some revenge on that. And especially knowing that the Seahawks are a team that struggled to score goals and they were able to score 6 on you, that's got to be a tough pill to swallow for sure.
And if you look at Bridgewater, that's a game yesterday they have to win. I mean, they had a bigger gap on the Seahawks. They had a really comfortable gap, just a few weeks ago, and
Right.
now they're looking at just 2 points, and I think are playing much better hockey than they were in the month of October. So, I would feel some pressure right now if I'm, my best friend, Coach Trevis's team right now.
Seahawks have 7 games in December, including that one, but also including on Wednesday at the showcase when they face Philadelphia Hockey Club, guys who played pro together, Bill Zanaboni and Adam Bartholomew. There could be a lot of energy in the building, even though it's only at 9:10 a.m. That's an early start for that one, but there could be a lot of energy for that game. To the Central Division, we go next. We're hopping through this thing right now, guys. Beginning December, Rhode Island is in first place, and kind of similar to the Wolves and Valley. Only 4 games this month. So they have a trip next week to Connecticut, and then the 3-3 at the showcase. So let's ask the same question. Rhode Island, obviously entering the month in first place with a 4-point lead, but also 3 games more played than Providence. Is there a key matchup of the 4 that they have that you feel like they have to win in order to maintain that first place lead over the Capitals?
I mean, you kind of got to win a good chunk of them. I mean, again, like we talked about with games that you should win, you look at the Apple Core game, a game that you're a heavy favorite. You should probably look at that and say, we got to win that no matter what. But then the rest, kind of tough competition. And being that you guys have points in 7 straight games, you want to keep that rolling. That's just, yeah, a tough time for them to be leading the league in game count with how hot they're playing. That's, I'm sure James Mello and the boys down there and Toby and all them are like, damn, wish we could play a little bit more before the holiday break. But yeah, again, I think it just comes down to matchups that you should win. So you got to win that Apple Core game and then hope that you can win at least one or two. I mean, you got to go what, like at least 2-2 out of those
Yeah.
four, I think.
Yeah.
Jake, would you
Yeah, I
say?
think you want 3 or 4. Especially, I mean, Providence only has 5 games too, so
Yeah.
that difference in game count is not really gonna be too significant after this month. So you just got to win your games.
Yep.
But you would have to think Providence feeling a little bit excited and eager to get to the showcase after what happened to them at the Walpole Regional Showcase.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So for Providence, they do face Vermont this weekend, the Nor'easter next weekend, and then their showcase games are the Bears, Apple Core, and Dukes. We get to the Nor'easter next, who I'm not saying this as a shot, but it's felt like they've been stuck kind of in third place all year. I don't think they've moved up or moved down. I think they've just been kind of right there in the middle all season long. And that's just, they've had good moments and they've had bad moments, right? And obviously they'd like to jump a little bit higher, but they're right there just below 500, 9-11 through 20 games. They themselves, though, have a really busy month of December with 8 games. Are they feeling the pressure of having to go 6-2, 7-1 this month in order to make a bigger jump?
Mm.
Yeah, with playing so many games at home, I think you want definitely. I mean, listen, when Vermont comes to town, I think a lot of teams just want that split. I feel like it's such a natural thing. It's like Adirondack and the P. Like every single 2-game series they have is just a split, and Vermont has not been getting that right now. So I think they're going to be desperate for that. But then again, like you're playing HCRI, who's a team in your division that beat you last time. Like that's a must win. And then Bridgewater is going to be another desperate team. So I don't think Connecticut has too much pressure right now. But I think when you have a month this busy, as you kind of sprint towards break, you want to put your best foot forward and put yourself in the best position you can for the new year. And I mean, their gap is not tremendously significant, but there's some good space between them and the first 2 teams. But if they can crawl out of this month 500, I think that's a good spot for them to be in.
Yeah.
And they have one of the toughest showcase schedules too. Talked about the Wizards. They got to play the Wolves, Little Flyers, and the Avalanche. So
Yeah.
those home games are way more important. You got to at least get a few wins under your belt before you hit that gauntlet of a showcase schedule. Jason Larico, get ready, buddy.
I can already hear Coach Heffernan now with that Avalanche game. Like, you gave me the last game of the calendar year against the Avalanche. That's what it is. It literally is the last game of the calendar year in the EHL against the Avalanche.
And what will be the heiferism? Oh, Neil, you.
Well, I do have to say this though, Jeff, because Justin brought this up to me. No one on the podcast has come at me this season about the scheduling, right? So that may have been an Anthony problem. We're gonna have to address that offline because I think the person that had the issue with the scheduling, besides possibly Hef, was Anthony. So
okay,
we'll have to talk about that.
No more Ravens rankings. Those were always fun too. Remember those?
Yeah. Oh, good old days. Those were the good old days, Jeff. Those were the good old days. To the Riders next, who begin the month 4 points behind the Nor'easter and 8 points ahead of the Apple Core, but with more games played than both of those teams. Obviously, one team in this division is not going to make the playoffs, but for them, because they're already at 22 games, they themselves only have 4 games this month, starting with the Red Hot 87s next Wednesday, and then their showcase matchups, Vermont, Seahawks, and Huntsman. You'd have to feel like, at a minimum, they want to get a split out of these 4 games.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. A team that, has struggled the last bunch of years, but looks much better this year. Talking to Coach Lynn and Coach Brown in the little amount of time that I have at the showcases, they've just been dealing with injuries to key guys. Victor Gonzalez, I think, is still out from the Walpole Showcase. He had multiple injuries. He had that hand accident before the game, and then he got hurt in the actual game itself. And it was like an upper body, like shoulder injury, took a big hit. And I don't think he's been able to come back since. And they've been missing some other guys too, but they just said, and I think I talked to a couple of parents too, that the team this year is just more cohesive. They're working more as a team. They've had some teams in the past that had more, talented type guys that a little bit more on individual efforts instead of team efforts, and they just couldn't gel and get that success. But yeah, I mean, that's a team that, again, they need to win at least two. Maybe you go 3-1 and you really start to storm up the standings.
For sure.
Does anybody remember what the Rough Riders did last year at the December showcase?
Did they go undefeated?
I think
They swept the
it.
board.
Yeah.
They swept the board.
So,
Behind Captain Cooper Smith, man. So we'll see who's the X factor this year.
Yeah.
But and then they're playing the Huntsman again, who they played last year. So I don't know. I'm feeling something big for the Rough Riders in the holiday season.
You don't know, but you know.
Yeah, okay, cutie patootie. Anyways, to the Apple Core.
Thanks, man.
To the Apple Core, who have 8 games themselves this month, to get them up to 27 when the month is all said and done. 2 with Philly Hockey Club, 2 with the Little Flyers, 1 with the Huntsman, and then the showcase, Rhode Island Wizards Capitals. Obviously, the dream would be to go undefeated. We know it's going to be hard for many teams to go undefeated this month, but obviously with that 8-point gap between them and the Rough Riders, they have to start making up that ground. But you have to feel like kicking off with Philly Hockey Club, who when they faced last, they did force them into overtime. New York has to be feeling better going into this month, compared to previous months so far this season.
Yeah, and they played some competitive games at the showcase. I call one of their wins. I know they had, I think the game the next day was against Rhode Island, and they had a lead and they ended up losing, but they're starting to get better. I mean, a team that, Connor McNeil has jumped in late too. That's never easy as far as being able to, I don't know how many of those guys are actually his guys too, that he was able to get there. That's very, very tough, but we all know him. He did a great job with the 87s premiere, and he cares an awful lot. I think he was the first coach at the showcase every day. He was always upstairs on his computer, headphones in, locked in.
Yeah. And we got to talk about how put together his hair is every time.
Not like a single hair out of place.
It's unbelievable.
Does he sleep in a position where his head is just like this and it doesn't move? It's so perfect.
I think he freezes himself every night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. He freezes himself in his, sweater and tie look.
Yeah.
And with the hair perfectly done.
Have you ever?
No bedhead.
Obviously, you guys know how into golf I am. That reminds me of a video where it was when your alarm is set for 6 a.m. for with no tea time and the person's struggling in bed, right? But then it's when you have a tea time and they pull the covers up and the guy's fully dressed holding his golf bag while he's sleeping.
Ready to go. That's
this reminds me of that, right? So, Connell, we hope that the hair is just as perfect at the December showcase.
It will be.
It will be.
It's just, to the South Division we go. We were talking, or Jake brought this up earlier, where teams will be in terms of their total 46 game count when the new year hits. The Bears are at 21 games played already, guys, and they have 8 games in December. Are they trying to finish first? There's
I'll see. All right, we'll see you guys in March. We're all set. We're done. Let us know when you finish.
They're gonna have 29 games played at the new year. So
they're trying to clinch first place by the new year.
Okay. I mean, this would be we've joked about this before, right? The EHL sportsbook, the betting odds of them being in first place with 8 games played and having the most games. It's always that kind of fantasy thing that you can maximize your chance of points by having the most number of games played. But at the same time, they've been that good. Every time it looks like this team is starting to sputter a little bit, they're coming in ho-hum off a 4-game winning streak.
Yeah, and I look to the game against the 87s as the most important one. I know it's really exciting to see the South teams, and you know what? Especially the Bears play teams out of their division, because as we saw with the October showcase and that Avs game, that is still in the running for one of the best games of this whole season. Yep. But listen, the 87s have beaten you 3 times now in the last 3 times they've met. that's personal for the New Jersey Bears, and they were feeling it when I was there. They were excited and ready to play the Little Flyers, but every single player I talked to brought up the games against the 87s. So I think they're super pumped for those. Maybe they'll be coming off a win against them, and then you'll see what they can do against PHC before they head into the showcase. But I'm always excited to see the Bears and Coach Chiller.
For sure, for sure. For the 87s, they return to action today, the day that we're recording this podcast. 87s versus Little Flyers at Iceworks. Then 3 straight home games: Little Flyers, Bears, Rough Riders, and then their showcase: Lumberjacks, Avalanche, Eagles. That's a tough December for those guys.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, and I think that's another common theme for us is pucks and tough matchups.
It's funny, they're on such a hot streak that it's kind of masked the poor start that they got off to, because it feels like they should be more than 5 games over 500.
Yeah, no, 100%. Reading Anthony's short shifts article was interesting. Seeing that 10 of 11 pop out after the 0-4 start. Especially I remember calling, I think, a couple of games at Worcester, and it just looked like a little bit like last year, like they just couldn't score goals. And then Alex Leghoff and Adams and all those guys they were able to get back have really just been massive contributors and just reshaped that whole entire forward group.
Yep.
And hopefully the Thanksgiving break can get some of the guys back for them, like Sobolev and Branish, who have been a little banged up. But even the way that they played at that October showcase, it wasn't bad. I mean, they outshot the Express handedly. They outshot Providence. Like, they weren't a bad team. They were just a team that couldn't find the back of the net. And now they're doing it.
And it was a combination too, right? Florentine Fali-Puskis was struggling too, and now he's been one of the best goaltenders in the league.
The 87s loved the chill guy meme for them too. Yeah. Hooley thought that was pretty great. He said that. When did you post that?
It was Black Friday.
Okay, he was like taking a nap or something, and then he like woke up and like had like 8
how early do you have to wake up to take an 11 a.m. nap?
That was my question. Okay, that was my first question. So when he woke up, he was like, I woke up to a bunch of texts and calls about that graphic, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Yeah, we cooked on that. Me, Justin, and Mike. We cooked.
So to Philly Hockey Club we go. They have 7 games this month. It's so kind of neat and symmetrical looking at their schedule, right? 2 on the road versus Applecourt, 2 at home versus the Bears. They're the road team for all the showcase games versus Valley, Rhode Island, and the Seahawks. And they're kind of stuck in the same spot that the Nor'easter are, but they have Huntsman 1 point behind them, and the Little Flyers 5 points behind them. I don't want to assume that the Bears and 87s are in this 2-team battle for 1 and 2, but that's the way it's shaping up right now, as opposed to this 3-team battle where 2 teams get in and 1 doesn't. I'm not putting you on the spot, guys, to say which one doesn't get in, but for these 3 teams, how important is the month of December, starting with Philly Hockey Club?
Massive. They've already beaten the Bears once. They played them 3 times. So they know they can beat them. They've had some close competitive games, even in the losses. Oh, and my buddy Zach Overholzer with the PA Huntsman, like another guy that is in early, out late, cares an awful lot about his Huntsman, and he's going to try to get them. And Ryan Arendes has been amazing. That team is eager to get into the playoffs and make some damage. So that's going to be a fun race to watch for us, not for maybe as much as others, but
yeah, I don't even know if I wouldn't even have a prediction for you. Like I would give it. Like I truly have no idea. Like it's the South is the Wild West of the EHL. Like I just have 0 answers. But as far as Philly Hockey Club goes, with the workload, like this, with back-to-backs and then the showcase, I'm looking at Cross Sherman. This is going to be a big month for him, and he's been a stud this year. I mean, he's just been a stud every year. All-star goaltender, sweaty boy, man. Oh my goodness, we saw after the All-Star College Series, dude produces.
Yes.
I'm hoping he has a big month. I'm sure he's going to be on some fantasy rosters too.
For sure.
That might be one of the coolest nicknames, Cross Boss.
Well, it's his Instagram
name. Goalie.
It's his Instagram name.
See, I don't think I'm following Cross on Instagram. Cross, I'm gonna follow you now.
You will be now. The Little Flyers
Yeah, boy.
have 7 games themselves, starting with the home and home against the 87s, 2 games at home against the Apple Corps. Then their showcase schedule, not easy either. They got the Eagles, the Express, and Nor'easter. And then before we jump to the P, just to highlight the Huntsman, because I had a good laugh with this, guys. We had to, as you know, jumble a few showcase matchups around because there were some matchups that went away. We had to create new games. So the
Yep.
Huntsmen lost the matchup and they gained a game against the Avalanche.
Hey.
Yeah.
and I heard about it. And they're like, well, you give us the best team in the league, record wise. And I was like, yeah, but you're also Tuesday at noon. So that's like the first real full day of the showcase because we have the 4 games on Monday
Right.
at the middle prime time slot. So that's
Yeah.
pretty good to me.
And for the Huntsman, man, like if you're thinking like showcases have not been too kind to you since you've jumped up to the EHL, I mean, they did not win a game in October. They didn't win a game at the December showcase last year. So I don't know what it is about showcases, but they need to push the right buttons at this one, and they don't have the easiest schedule to do it too.
No, for sure, for
Oh,
sure.
I'm so excited. I got that Tuesday 12 o'clock game. Let's go.
Jeff, you found your schedule for the broadcasting?
Well, it's on I'm just looking at my Google Calendar.
Oh,
And
okay.
I get all my times. 10, 12, 2, 4, 6 on Tuesday. Got you. 3, 10, 5, 10 Monday. 9, 11, 1, 3, 5. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fully loaded, baby. 9, 11, 1, 3. Yep.
Love
Got
it. Love it.
Me too.
To the EHLP we go. We're not going to break down each team's schedule because they don't have a showcase coming up this month. So
Right.
it's a little bit more fluctuated. Like the Vermont only has 2 games this month. This week against the Nor'easter. That's it. So I mean, listen, everyone can schedule differently, but then you can be the Wolves who have won 21 straight games, right? So as we have to talk about them every week on the podcast,
Unbelievable.
because it's reached a new bar now where you can't not talk about it every week on the podcast, right? So for
Right.
the Wolves, they've won 21 straight games and they have 4 games this month. They go back to back this weekend in Adirondack. I believe the Saturday game is that annual Pink in the Rink night for the Junior Thunder. So they'll be a little bit more fired up for that one as well. And then 2 games at the Avalanche, not back to back, the 12th and the 17th. Jake, I got to do it, man. Does this
Uh-oh.
team get to 25?
Jake, one answer.
I can't hear you too well. You want
I said, does this team get to 25?
Oh, Jake, you have to go? All right, buddy. We'll see you.
Someone's buzzing my apartment right now.
See you, buddy. See you next week, Jake. Love you.
Listen,
No,
you know what?
they don't.
I'll say
They don't.
I agree. They're going to
They
be
don't?
24-1. Okay. It's been a great run. And Andrew, if you get to 25, you can play this for the team too. I
No,
just,
you
it's,
will.
it's been so good, but there comes a time when you're on such a streak, and maybe this is kind of arrogant to say as a Patriots fan, Jeff, but like
Mhm.
we went through a time in our childhood when it felt like every time the Patriots played, the team that they were facing was like so amped up for that game that they had this huge target on the back. It feels like it's going to become the same way for the Wolves. Somebody wants to win that game and end that streak.
They do.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just have a feeling it might be Adirondack.
Ooh.
I don't know.
Adirondack might be the team.
Just a feeling. Just a feeling.
They played some tight games.
Dude, they're listening right now.
Oh my God.
They're definitely tapping into your stuff.
Yes.
But they've already had 1-2 1-goal losses. The Thunder have 4-3. Listen to these scores: 9-2, 7-6, 4-3, and 5-2.
It's
Absolutely crazy between
Yeah.
the Thunder and the Wolves. But 2 high scoring, 1-goal losses for Adirondack.
With those 21 wins so far, the Wolves have a 15-point cushion to enter the month of December. So they probably could lose 21 straight and still be in first place, to be honest. But they have
Imagine
130 goals for. In second place, the Avalanche with 27. Valley, I mean, they have 21 points. They would be in second place in the South Division, right there, in the East Division, like a great third place team, obviously, right? Adirondack 19 points of their own, and Vermont 13 points. So this is going to be a great race as we enter into December and then turn to the second half of the season in the North Division. In the East Division, that looks very symmetrical, guys, at the top, almost, right? You got Providence with 20 games, Seahawks with 20 games. Both have 12 wins. Providence has 8 losses, but 1 in overtime. And the Seahawks have 8 losses, none in overtime. So Providence has that 1 point advantage. And I know we're going to get to fantasy, but I'm still keeping an eye on the Nor'easter in this division, guys. I think because of the way that their schedule was set up, when their game count gets fully caught up here, this could be an awesome 3-team race for that first place spot in the East Division.
And they've beaten the teams ahead of them.
Yes.
And I mean, they're in a great position as far as the Express goes to, take over third place when this. I mean, they have it right now, obviously, but like they could really put a stranglehold on it. They have a 2-game set against them, and I think they have another 2-game set in the new year against them. So, if they split the one at Cadillac and then go 2 for 2 down at ISCC, they're going to be in a commanding position. And then once again, when you beat the teams ahead of you in your standings, you're feeling really good. They've beaten Providence. They've beaten the Seahawks. Right? They've got nothing left to prove as far as their own division goes. So now they just need to win the games and maybe find themselves in the top spot in that division.
And then maybe they can be cutie patooties too.
Well, Coach Espo already is, so no worries there.
I'm glad that you brought up ISCC. I haven't touched on this in the podcast yet, but growing up in Maine, obviously, from Scarborough, right outside Portland, went to a billion Portland Pirates games growing up. Obviously, a team in the AHL, worked for them for 2 seasons.
And then you worked for them,
yeah. So the rink in downtown Portland has changed names from what it used to be, but it used to go not ISCC, it was CCCC, the Cumberland County Civic Center.
Whoa.
So C times 4. So it always kind of brings me back to that. You guys want to see what Chase is doing now?
Hey.
I don't even know what this toy really is, but this life is simpler. Okay.
Yeah. I got one of those same toys to distract Mikey when he's bothering me.
Spatial learning toy for Mikey.
Age difference is about 29 years. Right.
He has some trouble with the shapes and the holes sometimes, but but he's trying.
Oh, Mikey's gonna come on and he's gonna come on and defend himself at some point. Anyways, to the South Division we go. Similar to the South in the EHL, with the Bears, the 87s have built a nice cushion for themselves in the EHLP. But I still got to keep an eye on the Bears and the Union Thunder, guys. I don't know if the break could have hit at a worse time for anybody than Union, who's won 4 straight games. I mean, I'm not putting you on the spot now, but start to think about this. If the 87s are going to be one of those final 2 teams, which then will advance to the Mid-Atlantic Regional Final, right? Who will be the second team? Bears?
Nope.
Union?
Too early for this. Way too early.
Something to think about.
I can't be getting the shake with this early in December.
It's not too early, though, Jeff, for fantasy.
Oh.
We'll go to fantasy now.
Now it's time for the eShow Fantasy Challenge. Follow along on the EHL app. Available now for free on both Apple iOS and Android.
So typically with Yahoo Fantasy, we always start with our Yahoo Fantasy League. I like begin it with a rant about my own team, right? But my team's won 2 straight, pretty damn good right now. I think you both have a soapbox that you want to get on right now. In totally different areas. Who wants to go first?
Zach Hyman?
Sure. I just love the fact that we were offered a trade for Matthew Tkachuk. My brother was willing to do it, but I told him we were on a walk. It was late at night. And I said to him, Michael, what does it say to the rest of this team if we trade our captain? Like, what message does it send to the rest of our guys? And I knew we couldn't do it. And what does Matthew Tkachuk do for his great general manager? He goes out and produces a 4-point game yesterday and puts us in a commanding position just 2 days into
4 points? He doesn't have more than that?
And it feels good right now.
I mean, that's better than what Jake Gensel got me yesterday because he's injured.
It feels good to be blank Hyman right now. You could do the math if you want. But it feels good to be us right now in second place.
Well, that word that you were kind of filling in the blank for is kind of defines Jeff's team.
Yeah.
Right. The Broken Mill squad.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Hey, this is like when I was trying to tell you that Ryan Rhodes was my goalie, but without telling you that, I was like, hey, I got to talk to James Mello. Yeah, I'm really good at giving away surprises, guys.
The door is open behind you, Jeff, just so you know.
Yep,
You want to
sure
let
is.
yourself out.
It actually literally is after the ghost came in earlier. Yeah, I just want to say to my team, like, can we just get a little tougher, guys? And can we just not get an injury on a Monday or a freaking Tuesday? Like, come on. We have a weekly lineup block for those that don't know. And I lost Alexander Ovechkin, JT Miller, and now Jake Ensel all on a Monday or a Tuesday. And then last week, Logan Stankoven, Stankoven, got hurt on a Monday. And I only lost by 5 to, who is it, Melissa? That's in first place? Right? What is she?
No.
Or no, she's in fifth.
DQ is in first place. Melissa has the most points in the league.
Melissa has the most points in this 4-4. My condolences to you, Melissa. I feel really bad for you. Your team is nasty and loaded, but I should have, or actually, no, I think it was DQ I played last week.
Yeah, it was.
I freaking know.
It was.
I'm in a tizzy. I hate my team already. I want to light them all on fire because they're all injured. And yeah,
Well,
life sucks.
Before we pivot,
Go do DraftKings.
before we pivot, Jeff, there is the lineup lock every week, but there's also the roster addition block of 3 a.m. Sunday night into Monday, which Trevor was given multiple reminders of the 3 a.m. lock.
Yep.
And he got there at like 4 a.m. So it's like, we know Trevor wasn't like asleep and then woke up at 4 a.m. He stayed up all night until 4 a.m., right? So at what point do you look at your clock and say, I know I have to make some changes before 3 a.m. and you're at like 2 a.m. per se, and you just miss it by an hour?
Took a nap. Hold a, late.
I love you, Trevor. Nap. I love you, Trevor. But if you're up that late anyways, get the 3 a.m. roster ads in so that you can play him against me. I woke up and I saw all the ads, but they weren't in the lineup because he did it after 3 a.m.
Come on, sniffers. You're better than that. Smell the,
if it doesn't work out for Trevor, for Jeff, not for Jake and Mike because they said no to the trade, you can always pivot to DraftKings.
You can always pivot to DraftKings. Although I made a late season run last year, so I'm not giving up on Yahoo yet, but I'm always still dabbling in DraftKings. The 2024-25 NHL season still has that new car smell, guys, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Just try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Just a simple money line. And if you are new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. You can call 888-789-7777, or you can visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved.
It is now time for a new month. In the East Show Fantasy Challenge, we have 2 champions so far. Christopher Richard, player for the New England Wolves, and then Patrick Johnston, father of a player on the New Jersey Bears. Jeff, you weren't on last week, but Patrick Johnston won November because of a goalie win. So he had Jason Larico, who won a shootout against the Providence Capitals the Saturday before Thanksgiving. If he doesn't win that game, it flips and somebody else wins fantasy. That's how tight fantasy can be, folks. And we have
Nor'easter can send him a puck.
Oh, they could. Here it is, right here.
I'll give yours away.
I didn't realize they put Eastern Hockey League in the logo. Did you guys notice that?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
Quick note on DraftKings, though. Me and Joe LaChase hammered the Islanders puck line the other night at the game against Buffalo, and we walked away with some money.
Yeah.
Nice. You went to the game with Joe LaChase?
He was there.
Oh, gotcha.
Saw him there. Good time.
What was the puck line? -1.5?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Wow, good for you.
There you go.
Oh boy.
But for this upcoming month for fantasy, obviously we talked about a lot about the game counts um, for different teams, which in some ways has mattered, and some ways for the Wolves has not. They can play fewer games and still be right there, producing enough to put people in a position to win.
Mhm.
Who wants to give their picks for December 1st? I think, Jeff, you kind of seemed eager because of that hometown connection.
Yeah, buddy. Come on down. Miles Kidd from the Express Hockey Club from the Norwood, Massachusetts. What a beautiful human he is. And I think Miles is going to erupt this month because me and him have a good close connection. Maybe not as close as you and Jake, but I'm very excited to have Miles on my roster. Very easy pick. Express play a lot of games. Also went with Alex Koenig on the Express Hockey Club because he is a G, aka a gangster, aka an original gangster. And he wins a lot of hockey
AKA a
games.
goalie.
A goalie too.
A goalie.
That too. All right, that too. But I think Koenig's gonna have another big month. So, like I said, choo choo, red train. And then I'm going to the EHLP for my defenseman. Alec Osher has been scoring buckets of points as a D-man for the New Jersey 87s Premier. And let's keep getting those points. Osh and the boys. Let's do it. Those are my picks.
Yeah,
Jake?
I like it. I'm 100% picking Miles for January. But I decided I needed to go with some like personal favorites. I needed to get some hometown cooking. So I went to Riley Van Son at forward. He might
from
be a
the
Ranger
Long
fan.
Island.
He might be a Ranger fan, but he's a Long Islander.
Ooh.
And that makes him better. We both got to get out of Massachusetts, thank God, for Thanksgiving break and go to a real place with good people and good vibes and good things to do. Long Island, New York. And good food, right? Because you can't find that here in Mass.
I grew up in Massachusetts. I take offense to that, Jake. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Norwood, Mass.
And
Come on.
we got Grant Burback on D. He's a super polite kid. That's why I picked him. But he's also putting up good numbers. But he's got good manners. Noticed that at the college series. And in goal, I went J-Lo. Another personal
Jennifer
favorite.
Lopez? Wow. Look at you.
I figured if he could, he got Olivia to a top 5 position in the first month. He got Patrick Johnston to the win this past month. Maybe he could help me out. If anybody can help me out, it's going to be J-Lo.
Busy schedule. Hope he's got a lot of saves left in him.
I'm gonna actually
goals for you for January, by the way.
I'm gonna start in goal because I also picked a nor'easter goaltender, but
I
from
can't wait
the
for you to say this name.
Thanks, Jeff. From the EHLP. I was dreading it too, and now I feel even more nervous. Gambling problem?
Let's roll. Let's drum roll. Neil Ravin, your fantasy goalie is
Jake. You know how to say it correctly, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course he does. He's Jake.
Right.
He's good at puck and names.
Drarid Galang.
Drawreg.
Drawreg.
Drawreg?
Drawreg Galang.
How do you say the last name?
You got the last name right.
Okay.
Galang?
Drawreg Galang. Okay. All right. I got it. That's a
Well,
tongue.
you just mumbled that last
That's
name,
a tongue. Well, if you say it 10 times fast,
Yeah,
it wouldn't. It's like a tongue twister, right?
Yeah,
But he's been great for the nor'easter EHLP team. I know I'm not the only person that picked him, right? But they have a busy month coming up, and I'm hoping he can continue the hot streak that he's on. I think there were 2 wins this past month where he only had 1 goal against. So let's keep that going. Then I go south for my defenseman and forward. Bears and 87s. Casey Stern. Feel like he's a little bit of an underrated, kind of under the radar defenseman for the New Jersey Bears. So I'm going to pick him on the blue line. And then surprisingly, not as picked as much as I thought he would have been, Alex Lakehoff up front. I think he was only picked 4 times, guys. So I'm not sure what people have been looking at, but he's got a lot of points. So I'm going to hope that he can get me back into the top 5 because I went from 5th place in October to like 40th something place in November. So he is trend back in the other direction here. So anyways, with that, December, the table is set for December in fantasy. We'll now wrap this thing up with what to watch for.
And now here's what to watch for in the EHL and the EHLP.
What to watch for is brought to you by Game Time, who has a new feature called Game Time Picks. that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. They filter out all of the fluff, only show you the great deals that you can get on incredible seats, including you, Jake. Recently, I know it wasn't a win for the Islanders, but you used Game Time to get yourself there.
Yeah, I mean, when you get tickets to an Islander game, you don't expect them to win. you go for a million other reasons, but it's not for the team. And now I got to see your Red Wings. I got to see one of my favorite players in the league, and Moritz Seider. I love watching him. I got to watch him tuck, unfortunately, but
Yep.
Sat like 16 rows off the ice from Game Time. And listen, the Islanders don't command the most expensive tickets, so that's also, a beneficial thing for me. So, it was a good game to go to, and yeah, I mean, anytime you're at UBS Arena, you're having a good time. So appreciate Game Time for getting me there.
I may be looking at Game Time come February because I started to look at the tickets for that Four Nations face-off, and hopefully, if I wait, because Game Time always shows you that lowest price, and obviously it's in the name Game Time decision. I can get a little bit better of a price if I wait right up until Game Time for that Four Nations face-off. It doesn't sound like Jake. It doesn't sound like Jake wants to go to TD Garden, Jeff, being that's in Massachusetts. So maybe you and I can go and use Game Time with that all-in pricing, have the chance to look at our seats before we buy them. And of course, being on the Hockey Podcast Network, we have a great code for you. Take all the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, use the code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, and again, create your account, use the code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And now what to watch for? We did touch on all of the schedules so far, or coming up, I should say, in December for all the EHL teams. Is there a game, though, in particular in the upcoming week that you have circled the most, that you're keeping your eye on the most in the EHL? I'm going to start with Vermont and Nor'easter. That 2-game series is huge for both teams.
There you go. I'll go south. Why don't I go Huntsman Bears, the very first game? Because as we mentioned, Huntsman need to leapfrog Philadelphia for that 3rd spot and get a little farther away from the 5th spot. As people may not remember, if you finish in last in your division, you will not make the playoffs. So I think that's a huge game, and especially against a Bears team that's as good as they've been. That could be a really good statement win for the Huntsmen if they were able to pull that off.
Bears 87s. I think it's just the matchup of the week. Yeah, just
living in the South.
Yep.
And listen, we're up against it a little bit here, so I'm going to pick the EHLP matchups for us because we obviously are already on the bulletin board. We're watching the Adirondack versus Wolves series, all right?
Goals.
Yes, they enter on a 21-game winning streak. Let's see if they get out of that series at 23. So, Jeff, welcome back to the podcast. I hope you got a nice little R&R during that cruise, because December is going to be a busy month, especially for your voice here in 2 weeks with all those games that you're calling. So if you can't make it to any of the upcoming games, as always, tune in and watch live on Flow Hockey. And if you can, listen this Sunday to the Cutie Patootie at 6:50. That is Jake calling the Express. Anyways, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Later, boys.
Thanks for listening to The E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Learn more about us at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when our next podcast episode is released.